Good afternoon, good evening. I'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting on Thursday, March 19th, 2020 to order. Thank you all for tuning in on us tonight. As you can see, we have our proper social distance. Two of our other commissioners are on spring break this week, so we are having our meeting. We are going to address in just a few minutes how the meetings may proceed in the months coming ahead. I think we all know and have been watching TV around the clock to know that we're in some very uncharted territory and times in our country, and I know our citizens in Johnson City are all pulling together that we're going to get through all the challenges that are going to be in front of us. Tonight, Pastor Michael Cummings is here to offer our invocation. I know he has some words of wisdom for us, and so if we could rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us enter into a time of prayer. Father, as fellow believers and sisters and brothers in the Lord, we are required to pray because prayer is a necessity, not an option. The Bible lets us know in the book of Exodus, and Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." It is ultimately our responsibilities as believers to make God greater than anything that we are facing. Father, I pray that you strengthen these city officials, those that serve this great city, and also the surrounding areas. Let the power of you infiltrate their daily responsibilities and remind them that everything they do glorify you. We cannot change what we refuse to face. We should not allow the coronavirus to allow us to shrug back or not continuously to put you in everything that we say and do. But we should remind this virus, as we do with influenza, the common cold, or anything else that we're faced, whether it be cancer, any great catastrophe that hits our body, we remind it of the power of God that is at work in us. This is a great city. These are great leaders, and we are great people pressing forward the mark. Let everything that be thought, decided, or spoken within these walls, let it be done to your glory. We shall overcome. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Peterson, the city has made a lot of decisions this past week, and if you might just kind of review that a little bit with the public. Anything you want to update?
But there's a long list of things that we have been dealing with this week. First and foremost, we want to ensure everyone that we work for that we have spent many hours reviewing the situation, taking the advice and the guidance of CDC and the health department, and that's ruled all of our decisions and will continue to do so. We have more than adequate contingency plans in place. We've cross-trained employees. We've identified employees that could work from home. We've ensured that there's the technological capabilities to allow people to work from home. We have tried to order ahead on chemicals in order to keep our water and sewer plants functional and to keep cleaning supplies so that we can continue to operate and provide essential services without interruption, no matter where this epidemic may lead us. So we feel very confident that we have a good plan in place. We've got a plan in place that is a living plan. It's very flexible to adapt as the conditions around us change. Citizens may see some changes in the way we deliver services, but it will not impact the quality or the quantity of service delivery. For example, we've looked at, should the occasion arise, how we could change the way that solid waste is collected. We'd still be collecting solid waste. We're still going to be providing water. We're still going to be collecting wastewater, and police will be working, fire will be working. We've worked through contingency plans should something occur within our staff that would impact staffing levels. So I can assure everybody that the health and safety of our community is our primary concern, followed closely by the health and safety of our employees and the folks that deliver those services. It's real easy to get excited, get anxious, excuse me, and for some people to panic. I can assure you there is absolutely no reason for panic at this point or at any point in the future that we foresee coming. The health department, Ballard Health, State Health Department have been excellent in staying in contact with us and keeping us abreast of what's going on. Thankfully, there are no reported cases in Washington County as of 2 or 3 hours ago. Don't think that's probably changed. Social distancing is crucial. We, working together as individuals, can really have a significant impact on the big result of what we're dealing with. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Practice social distancing when you're around other people. If you will notice us in the chambers tonight, we're all maintaining a 6 to 8 foot separation between people. Life's going to go on. There's still going to be a need for people to work. There's still going to be a need for people to eat and to buy gas. As much as you can, keep a normal routine going. Don't hoard supplies. Just use some common sense in this thing, and I think that this is going to be another challenge that we're going to have, and we're going to sail through this thing very successfully and safely for everyone, but it is going to take a lot of common sense and people working together. With schools being out, there's going to be a need to get food to children. There's going to be people that will potentially face periods of unemployment. So, if you know somebody that has a need for something, come together and reach out and help people in need. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for volunteer work if you've got the time or the desire to volunteer. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to do those types of things. Daycare comes up in every single conversation that I've had for the last 10 days, and the majority of my day, at least 10 hours a day, has been involved talking about what are we going to do, how are we planning. Daycare keeps coming up over and over. As schools are out and we have working parents, there's going to be a need for child care, daycare, edge care, whatever words you want to use. I want to assure everybody that we are trying to find solutions for that. We've been in contact with the health department, looking at regulations and permitting and those types of things. In my last conversation with Dr. Barnett with the Johnson City Schools, he plans on keeping EduCare up and running. So as people run into challenges with what to do with their children during the day while they work, rest assured we're working on it. We're going to come up with a solution. We're not sure exactly what that's going to look like just yet, but that seems to be one of the bigger challenges right now. In order to help people keep working and keep their livelihood going, they need some help with child care. Like I say, police, fire, water, sewer, solid waste, all of those services I feel very comfortable that we're in a good position with. Another thing that is forthcoming, we have been in communications with state legislature for about the last 10 days about what do we do if the majority of our board is sick and unable to participate in a live meeting. We can't conduct business if we don't have at least 3 commissioners here. Or what if we get into the situation to where there is very widespread sickness throughout the community and the board is able to meet, but you don't want to risk infecting the board. The legislature has been working this week, and hopefully will finish up their work tomorrow on a bill that would allow local elected officials to meet with some electronic participation. So, for example, if our two commissioners that are absent this evening wanted to participate by calling into the meeting or Skyping into the meeting, something like that, this new legislation would allow for that only during times of a declared emergency. One of the versions of the bill, and there's two bills being debated right now, would allow you to conduct a meeting without the public actually being in the room that you're conducting the business. And so that would certainly still afford our citizens the opportunity to view on live stream or to view on TV. I could even envision perhaps setting a microphone up out on the front steps or in the lobby or something to where people could still participate in the meeting. So you're going to see some changes perhaps in how services are delivered, but they will still be quality services meeting all of our citizens' needs. I guess one other thing I would like to mention, we are working very diligently to alter the way in which we interact with the public in terms of receiving money. The healthcare professionals are really trying to emphasize social distancing, which requires a 6 to 8 foot separation. With our front counters, there's not that natural separation, so we're working towards establishing some drive-through windows that could be operated and perhaps some walk-in windows in our lobby so that we could ensure the health and safety of the general public as well as our employees. So we're going to change the way we're delivering services a little bit, but I promise you it'll still be great service.
If I could add three things.
Yes,
I've been
ma'am.
thinking of, and maybe some of the other commissioners would like to weigh in as well. One of the things we've left open are our parks. When I came by the Tweetsie Trail, it was overflow parking. So people are getting outside, and that's fine because you're going to have further distance. And of course, with all the children who are going to be kind of cooped up a little bit, they do need to get out. And so staying out in the play areas and letting them run and play ball and things like that is going to be really important for the parents to get them out as a family. The second thing, I was standing beside a lady at Sam's right in front of the water that was picked clean. I mean, there was none there. And she said, "I cannot believe this. I need to have water." And I asked her, I said, "Ma'am, do you live in Johnson City?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, you have water and it's not going anywhere." And she said, "I didn't think about that." So we have great city water, and there's no need of really feeling like you have to stock up on water because nothing's going to happen to it. Is that right, Mr.
Our
Peterson?
water supply is absolutely in great shape. In most cases, it's better than bottled water, and where you're paying $1 for a bottle of water, you could probably buy 100 gallons of city water.
And we are taking extra precautions. That's one of our key areas of protection.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Absolutely.
right. So you can count on your city water. The last thing, if you're listening to me and I sound a little bit raspy here, it's also allergy season. And so as I was speaking with my physician today, because I said, I'm a little raspy, I might cough some tonight at commission meeting, I just wanted to go through the process, and so they did the triage with me. Of course, I had no symptoms except, allergy-type symptoms, and of course was not referred for any kind of viral testing. But he said that he had already seen 2 patients that morning presenting with the same thing, of course, thinking that it could be something worse. His recommendation, he said, when you're there tonight, make sure the recommendation, if you think you have allergies or you're concerned about it, call your health care provider. They've made some adaptations in all the medical offices now for these phone calls. And so that's the best source to go until you can get it straightened out. So anyway, that's the raspy voice, and we're good. Commissioner Calhoun, anything you want to add to this discussion?
Well, excuse me, lots could be added to it, but
Yeah.
obviously the treatment for high-risk people is what we're trying to not get there. We don't want to get to where those high-risk people have to be treated, because treatment for that age group, and unfortunately, Mayor, you and I are close to that age group, close. Maybe we're in it, I don't know.
so.
But
We are the demographic.
we are the demographic for that, and that's a concern. So the reason I say that is this is all about decreasing the transmission of the virus, as opposed to trying to get to a way to treat the virus. We know what to do when we get people that have to be treated. It's just that it could really outstrip our healthcare capabilities. Everybody's familiar with flatten the curve. That's a overused term, but it can't be overused enough. And I think one of the best comments that I heard was, and I forget where I heard it, I think it was Alan Levine that said it in one of the interviews when they said, "Do you think we're going too far with all of this?" And I think he said something like, "Well, when we come on the other side, it would be wonderful if we said, gosh, we really didn't have to do all of that because we came through it." That would be a really terrible thing if we said, gosh, we just did too much stuff to try to protect our citizens. The other comment I would make is just try to help out our local economy as much as you can. The mayor and I were on a conference call with some of our small businesses yesterday, and they're trying to figure out any way they can to take care of their people. And it wasn't figuring out any way they can to make money. It was figuring out any way they can to take care of the people that depend on those businesses. And I think a lot of them are getting creative with drive-ups and carry-outs and all those kinds of things. So anything we can do to help that, I think, would be appreciated. And the last thing is just check on your neighbors. We've seen that happen in our neighborhood where people are calling each other, and it's important.
Thank you. Very, very well said. Mr. Fowler?
The three things I was going to say, I think Larry just covered. So if you have neighbors that are elderly, check on them. I mean, especially, but the people that are the highest risk for this are people who are immunosuppressed or have a problem with their immune system, and those over the age of 70. So you have to be very careful. If you are sick, do not go visit elderly people. Nursing homes are not letting people in, those kind of things. Do not go see them. Call them, check on them, but do not go in person to see them, because they're the people that we're trying to protect, especially. So other than that, wash your hands, stay away 6 feet away from people. Don't gather in large groups. If you can avoid all those things, that's going to help us keep the transmission down. And that's the key to making the curve flat instead of a lot of us getting this thing. So just be smart. And I think we're doing as much as we can right now until we find out more about what we can do. So hopefully treatments and vaccines are coming.
Finally, Mr. Peterson, I just want to say thank you to you and your your leadership team for all the work you've been doing. I know that this has been like primary of everything that you've been doing, and a lot of hours that you and your team has put in, so thank you a lot. And just to tell the people, the citizens of Johnson City, the city has your back. We're there for you, and I know that if we're all in this together, I mean, for sure, and kind of back to what Commissioner Calhoun said, none of us have a vaccine against this, so we're all susceptible. So keeping that distance is the most important thing. So, and thank you so much. So.
Also be cognizant of the fact that you may be around somebody that's perfectly healthy, but you never know who's in their home. I mean, through this process and trying to address all the potential situations, there's always somebody out there that is taking care of an elderly parent, or they have a sick child or a sick spouse in their house that doesn't need to be exposed to things. So if you're sick, stay home, self-isolate. You really don't need to be around people. Call your neighbors, call your friends, call people that don't like you. Somebody will come and bring things to you and help you through this thing. And the big thing at this point is don't panic. We've got your back. we're working, we've planned our work, and we're starting to work our plan, and this thing is going to pass. We're going to get through this. Stay economically active, isolate yourself if you're sick, and for the 112th time, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and stay away from other people. It works, please.
Good. Thank you all so much for your comments. Let's get on to the business.
Your first order of business is consideration of the minutes from your meeting held Thursday, March 5th.
Move for approval?
I think we're going to have to
Second.
have
I
some,
think that,
yeah.
this
some
is gonna
rhythm
happen a
here.
lot,
Yeah,
Commissioner
y'all just
Fowler.
switch back and forth. So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
I can see I'm going to have to hustle to stay caught up with these three other votes.
I know, it's going to go fast.
All right, next item is a resolution associated with ordinance number 4735-20, the stewardship annexation. A resolution to annex certain properties located within the 12th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, adjoining the present corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee. Said properties being known as the stewardship annexation. Excuse me, to zone said properties B4 planned arterial business as described herein, and to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee accordingly, being a part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519.
Mr. Peterson, we'll have to come back to the consent agenda. I think we kind of skipped over that.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Can we do this one? So I'll
Let's
have
do
to read that
We
again,
can.
please.
Sure, we just need to come back.
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot on your mind, I know
First,
that.
and then go back later.
Hassan, how are you?
Doing good, ma'am. Thank you.
Go ahead and proceed.
Mayor Commissioners, this is the request you considered last time for rezoning 2 pieces of property in the gray area. You did vote to zone these 2 lots B4 zoning district. The initial presentation was for B5. So staff had to take that back to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission has recommended in favor of the B4 zoning district. So the resolution in front of you simply reflects that change.
Mr. Calhoun, you're on the Planning Commission. Any comments for us?
The owner representation was at the meeting and had no problem with that going from B5 to B4.
All right, move for approval?
And second,
Motion and a second. Any other comments on it? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Now, for your consideration is the consent agenda.
Any items you would like to pull?
No, ma'am.
None for me.
Okay, I have one, Mr. Peterson. It's just a comment on it, and it's actually 411 on the flying hours requested by the Johnson City radio controllers.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. I know there's a neighborhood adjacent to that property.
Yes, ma'am.
And just wondering if they have contacted the neighbors there to let them know they plan this.
Andy, do you have any idea?
That was all, not to my knowledge.
Phil did this before,
Right.
and for what it's worth, we are practicing what we preach. I have 2 assistant city managers and a public works director who are self-isolating at home for 14 days because they traveled.
So
You're on your own.
Yeah, it's been a hectic week.
do you know how you know they're at home? Their dogs are barking in the background, so that is in my house for sure.
They are, and they call about 6 or 7 times a day because they're bored.
So, Andy, if I could request just a message that would go to the radio controllers before they have this event, please go over and talk to the neighbors. And some of the neighbors complain about the remote aircraft coming over, buzzing their houses and their decks and everything when they're out. And I think there's an agreement on where they fly and where they don't fly, and so just kind of reinforce that if you don't mind. Very good, thank you. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All right, any other comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. All right, sir, now we can go on to these other ordinances.
Okay, now we will go to ordinance number 4735-20. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith and amendatory thereof by assigning B4 planned arterial business zoning to certain property within the 12th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, known as the Stewardship Annexation. Ready for your consideration.
Hassan, I'm sorry.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the assignment of the zoning district to the two properties you just voted on. The resolution to annex them into the city. As indicated, Planning Commission is in favor of this being B4. There is a B4 piece of property not very far from here, and it will be in line with the future land use map.
Move for approval?
Second.
Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next item for consideration is a plan of services associated with ordinance 4735-20. This outlines how we will provide services to that property that you are in the process of annexing.
Hassan?
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the plan of services the Planning Commission worked on is recommending for your approval. Water and sewer are already available to these two properties, and all other services will be provided from the effective date of annexation in accordance with city policy.
Commissioners?
To approve.
Second.
Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4732-20. An ordinance providing for the conveyance of a certain parcel of real property located within the Johnson City to the Boones Creek Historical Trust upon the terms as set forth herein. This is a transfer of a portion of the Kefauver Farm to the Boones Creek Historical Trust. We would recommend your approval.
Very good.
Move for approval?
Second.
All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next ordinance is ordinance number 4734-20. An ordinance providing for the conveyance of a certain parcel of real property located within the city of Johnson City to Michael Manzi and wife Catherine Manzi upon the terms as set forth herein. Ready for your consideration on second reading.
Property on Commerce Street,
Yes, ma'am.
adjacent to Founder's Park.
Move for approval?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
This time, if Mr. Witherspoon would come forward, we'll have a present.
Public inputs first. Right
Okay.
before that, okay?
Okay. Yes,
See
ma'am.
that? Okay. We do allow public input. We haven't had any applications for anything tonight, but is there anyone here who would like to speak to the commission? Okay, seeing none, we will move on then. Thank you.
Paul? Right.
Here's the water man. You can convince everybody we're going to have plenty of water, right, Mr. Witherspoon?
Employees have been working on redundancy. Of course, first of all, we've got redundant plans. And a lot of the redundancy plans are transferable to a pandemic event. And so we have been updating those. We've worked hard for the last 3.5 weeks. I think some of us have woke up in the middle of the night thinking about this. And I would give the staff a tremendous amount of credit for the effort that's been put in so far. And what
And
we're doing.
redundancy meaning we have backup plans for.
It's backup of everything from personnel to equipment to all types of activities. As Mr. Peterson mentioned about social isolation, we are attempting to get a lot of our work crews, they can dispatch via mobile units now. So we're trying to, instead of having all of them report in early next week, they will begin being dispatched from about 5 to 10 different locations to just break up that clustering of employees. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue to do more of that. So, Mayor, I'm going to move through this relatively quickly. If you say slow down, I will slow down, or one of the commissioners does. But otherwise, I will try try to get through it.
We'll let you move.
This is on our capital program. The city has a very healthy water sewer capital program that we're delivering. Again, that falls into two categories: debt-funded projects where we borrow money, and rate-funded projects where those projects are funded on any given budget year. We follow our planning documents. Most of the time, those are 20-year planning documents, so they are roadmaps for these investments that we're making on behalf of the community. This is an important slide. Pre-COVID-19, we have been seeing an increase across the construction industry on escalation of bid pricing due to the amount of capital that's being undertaken nationally and certainly regionally. And we have an example of that we opened recently. There is an escalation in water sewer construction bid prices from the time that we did a lot of the programming on this. There's a real unknown right now, and you know, as Mr. Peterson said, we're going to come out the other side of the tunnel of this, and things will get back to, you know, a higher degree of normalcy. I think we don't have the answers right now of how COVID-19 affects a contractor bidding work, if they will bid work, and what happens if they have a significant amount of their workforce that is affected by it, or if the supply chain for their parts and pieces and materials are affected by that. So we've talked to a couple of our engineers that are national engineering companies, and everybody is watching this real closely. So what we completed, Austin Springs, we updated y'all before, but it's fully complete as of this presentation. Pretty significant project. We upgraded a lot of old 4-inch cast lines, improved to a 12-inch line, almost $1.75 million of investment out there, improvements to fire flows, and a lot of new fire hydrants. Example of the project. Tannery Knob transmission line. This was the part that came after the tank construction. City crews did it. Laid a big pipeline down Market Street, up Chamber Drive to the tank, put in a great big vault, and you can see how deep that vault was. That's an excavator right there. Vault was probably about 25 feet deep. We're demobilized from the site. We've got to put an area, get the power board to put an area light up there, but everything went well with that. This is another project our treatment and facility maintenance crews did. This was part of a Tennessee Energy grant. In summary, that piece of equipment's a little over $300,000, but the savings, because it's a more optimized, smaller horsepower at the regional wastewater plant, is about $4,000 per month. So we're looking at roughly a 6 or 7 year payback on that. Knob Creek and Brush Creek improvement projects. This is with Frizzell Construction. Knob Creek had a large pumping station for wet weather flows and utilization of some vessels over there. It's out of warranty now. It got complete in December, 2 Decembers ago. It shows where it pumps around. That was how deep that structure was. That's what the station looks like as far as the inside and the grade. That's one of the vessels that it pumps to, and we have utilized this significantly during the last 2 Februaries, and it was a good thing that it was online for redundancy and to handle the peak, help us handle the peak flows through the plant. Sewer rehab, you approved tonight starting to look at reinvestment in the Sinking Creek wastewater lift station. Upstream of there, we have about 6 sewer basins. And this was rehab that we performed on the one that actually goes up Cherokee Road from about where through Pine Oaks Golf State Course to the fire station and on up to about where the crest of the hill is at Patey Drive. So this was both digging things up and putting the liner pipe or pipe within a pipe, finished under budget. It also, we addressed 2 smaller areas as part of this project. Projects that are currently underway, and this is the other shoe of the Brush Creek, Knob Creek project. There were 2 buildings constructed as part of this, and then a similar type utilization of some vessels for wet weather flow. That kind of looks like one building, but it's not. This is the sludge processing building, and this is the new Disinfection Building. That's the chute off the sludge building. I will mention to you, these are new dewatering units. There is an ongoing discussion with the contractor and the manufacturer on these units. They've been in over the past year 3 times trying to get these to meet the performance specifications that were called out in the documents. And right now they're underperforming. We'll see how that eventually gets resolved. But just to make you aware, this is the project that the contractor finished late on, and there's some considerations on that we will have to make. And we thought that was the only issue we were dealing with, but this is another issue that we're going to have to get through. Of the 5 facilities that we started with back in 2008, water and wastewater, all 5 of them had gaseous chlorine on site. We have moved away from gaseous chlorine on site. This is the last one that we've gone to bleach on. And so that's an example of the bleach containment that we have over there in the vessels. This is part of the wet weather structure, and this part of the plant expansion process was going really well, but if you notice where that structure is right there, we had a tractor trailer delivering pipe that ended up being at the wrong site. And for some reason decided to go up through the plant, and all of this ended up underneath his rear tires. He probably did about $100,000 to $120,000 worth of damage. So we will be filing a claim against their insurance company on that. So Lark Street, y'all are familiar with that. There was utilities associated with it. Those are complete. Galvanized replacement, and again, I say this every time I get up here and I talk about this. This is probably one of the least sexiest projects that we do unless you're the customer that gets a new water line in front of your house and a new water lateral, and your pressure is better and your water quality is better. So in these 2 projects, we again are phasing improvements on the Oak Grove Road corridor to replace a lot of small diameter galvanized. It's just a lot that was put in out there in the 50s. And we also did a good section, a substantial section of the Keystone neighborhood. So again, we make a mess, or our contractor makes a mess when he goes in, but they clean up very well, and the projects meet their intended use. Boones Creek and I-26 interchange, people see the road and see the road improvements and probably forget that there are utilities associated with it. Bigger pipes to upgrade under the footprint of the proposed road, because there's not much of any place else to go out there. Deep, slow. So this project is going well, but that gives you some idea that, again, it's an extremely deep line, and it's about 20 feet deep and rock, and it's going extremely slow. Lower Brush Creek Interceptor. This is probably, of our 2 capital plans that span over about a 10-year window. This is the one that we got the low interest loan from the state. We opened bids on February 19th. We've got a challenge on this one in that this is a casualty of the accelerated or the enhanced or the increased pricing. We've got some money to make up on this job. We got 4 good bids. They're all clustered. Unfortunately, they're significantly over the contract estimate. So the ripple effect on that is we're going to try to give the commission 2 to 3 options and provide you with a recommended option to move forward. That'll be coming up later this month. And right now, I can't tell you which option we're going to be recommending to you on that. But we've got some money to make up, and the result is we potentially may delay some other projects within the capital plan just to make sure that this one goes, because this is definitely a high priority. We're still going back to downtown with the sewer rehab in the fall. That'll bid sometime a little bit in the month of April. We got to make sure that, again, with COVID-19, that we've got bidders. Carroll Creek, This was a project for sewer on the Upper Carroll Creek Basin. We had this advertised the other day. We didn't see a lot of interest from the bidding community, so we have delayed the bid opening until, we canceled the bid opening. We're going to rebid it sometime this summer or at the appropriate time. Buttermilk Road, Commission approved this tonight. Again, this is another 9,000 feet of 4-inch O-cast. County was getting ready to repave this road. We've known that we've needed to program this replacement for some time. We asked the county not to repave because the installing of the line would have damaged significantly the pavement, and they have worked with us on this, so this is a good project for us. We are repainting, and this tank will go back in service the end of this month. This is one of our storage reservoirs over off of
They will be happy.
they will be happy to be rid of our contractor and our work over there. So contractor's done a good job, but we're painting in the dead of winter, which is good that we were able to do it then from the standpoint of scheduling it, but we can make a muddy mess if we're not careful. We are getting ready to do another rehab project. This is upstream in the Knob Creek plant on the Princeton Road corridor over near where a number of businesses up from Oakland Avenue up towards the interstate. And hopefully we can get this thing advertised out there sometime in the month of March, later on this month or in April. We're still putting in standby power before July, and this is at wastewater lift stations for reliability. We'll have 2 new installations in, both of them out in the regional system. We're working on a water transmission line design that's over east of town that will provide better service along this ridge line that you see from Tannery Knob looking south. This has got some EDA money in it. These are the old blowers at the Brush Creek wastewater treatment plant that provide aeration in the plant. They were put in, most of them were put in 1971. There's efficiency gains to be made. There's reliability gains to be made. This is an example of what a new blower would look like, and this is about 60% complete as far as the plans are concerned. We've got another emergency lift station, standby power going in. This is for the Town Acres lift station. This provides service to Town Acres School and a lot of the residential area over there. That'll go in for the end of the year. Walnut Street, we're working with a consultant on and the other utilities and the streetscape and the drainage to try to get utility replacements done on this. This one's grown in scope from what we had originally programmed it as, and so we'll see how this comes out before we advertise for bids. Upper Reedy Creek, this project is getting closer. We've received 100%, John's got 90% plans. I think they're 100% plans now. Going for the various regulatory approvals. We're in the process of acquiring right-of-way at this time. All the appraisals are back, and we have our agent out talking to the property owners that are specifically affected by that. Spring house up in Unicoi. This one's not real fancy, but it's very functional. We've got a spring house that dates back to the early 1920s up there that structurally needs to be replaced. The rest of these projects I won't spend any time on. These are other projects that are contained in the various capital plans, but are not moving to the point of design quite yet. And then there were a number of force account projects that we've done since the last time we reported to you, and this would be working with our construction crews, either extensions or replacements, both either water, sewer, that kind of thing. Okay. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Preston.
We're getting a lot done. We'll see how the next few months affect delivery schedules and things.
If you haven't been around with Mr. Witherspoon to tour some of the plants, you should plan that. It's a very interesting.
We're always glad to have you, although we might wait a couple of months.
Right, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. That takes you to the manager's report. Janet, you want to run through financials? You want me to? The financial report that you're getting ready to see, we're in really good shape now. And I don't want to create panic or any sorts of thoughts of gloom and doom, but as we transition through this pandemic, it's certainly going to impact our business as well as all the businesses in our community, but especially the small business owners. And working with the commission, we've identified a couple of things that we're exploring deeper to try to build in some lifelines, if you will, to small business that help them maintain a toehold in the business world and to be able to keep people employed and working and the doors open. And there'll be a lot more coming out about that next week as we get through some details on it. But Janet, if you would
And you want
do
to
highlights, please.
go to the podium? That might be a little easier for you. We can just see the back of your ponytail bouncing
Okay.
around. There you go.
All right.
Much better.
So, city manager and I, as well as leadership team, have already talked briefly about any potential impact from the crisis we're currently working through. And so we're going to be preparing some revenue projections. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. However, I had done some research, and Pete and I discussed that the online sales are really increasing, or that's at least what, the data that, that you research is saying right now. So online sales are increasing. We know that the grocery stores are having big activity. The tourism industry, hospitality, all that is where we're going to be suffering somewhat. Tourism industry especially, as we don't have those conferences come to town, those the ball games and so forth. That's where we're going to see some impact. So you're looking at hotel motel tax, you're looking at some business tax, some local sales tax and state sales tax activity that's going to be affected negatively. We won't know on local sales tax for a couple of months because those numbers lag. The hotel motel tax, it really doesn't lag much. So those taxes for March will be due by April 20th. I'll have a good indication of a partial month of impact by April 20th. So I'll report on that the next time we have some financial information. As far as where we were through 7 months on property taxes, as you may know, we just went through a tax year where we had property reappraisals. Those years are always a little challenging. There are a lot of appeals that are heard by the county. If the county doesn't rule in favor of the taxpayer, they can go to the next level and appeal to the state. So we're still seeing some refunds and adjustments coming from the state level. We're still seeing activity coming even now, and sometimes they'll go back a couple of years and give refunds. So,
How big is the gap then that we may see some actual losses?
we are pretty much flat
Are we?
from 2018 to 2019. Unfortunately, we always budget, we budget growth every year. So we budgeted growth of about 293,000. We're flat. So I would imagine that we're going to be impacted by that. Now, when we last reported, and as of January, we were having extremely strong retail sales. So really didn't have any concern. Year to date, we actually had December retail sales figures, so we had 6 months of sales tax figures. We were up from budget about $590,000, so that far exceeds any miss we were going to have on property tax. It's still that's a good cushion. So we're just going to keep reporting every month and watching that number, trying to watch what the economists are saying. The Tennessee economists, we have some good ones, and, probably more so the Tennessee economist. So we'll just keep a close eye on that. So year-to-date sales tax growth was healthy at 4.43% through December. With the month of December reflecting an increase of nearly 5%, that's extremely healthy. So although we'd like to see that for the rest of the year, we most likely won't. And like I said, we're going to see our biggest hits, because we get sales tax from the hotel motels too. So year to date, we've had $179,000 in refunds on taxes. Now, keep in mind, some of those are the pilot programs. So I really don't know what to tell you as far as the future goes. We're just going to keep a watch on it, do our homework, and keep you informed. And in the meantime, we are talking to staff about cost-cutting measures, things that make sense, which capital projects we could maybe look at, defer into next year. I have not done the bond issue this year yet. We had already planned to have had that done by now, so we will save some interest costs with that, and there's the possibility we could defer that into next fiscal year. The bond markets, the stock market especially, but the markets are going absolutely crazy. They're changing by the hour. So like munis might be, tanking here, and then munis might be doing good. So it's just a crazy market right now, and we get several updates on the trading market every day, and I think they're in a big period of uncertainty as well.
So the feds have just reduced the interest rate down to zero? Is that what it is?
Unfortunately, that's where we've had to go. We've got nothing, we've expended all of our powder in terms of economic stimulus through the Fed.
Quiver.
Right.
I guess, can they go negative with that? Yeah, they can go negative with it, but I wouldn't recommend it, but that's not my decision to make. What the feds do with those types of rates really don't necessarily impact the muni bond market. What really drives the muni bond market is, are people more comfortable investing in stocks and equities, or do they like the comfort and the assurance of muni bonds? And, when people are jumping out of one into the other, sometimes it pushes the yield the wrong direction. And with this type of volatility that we're seeing right now, I don't think there's an FA in the world that would advise us to sell bonds right now. We really need to let the dust settle a little bit on the economic front before we start issuing large amounts of debt, I think.
And thank you. Any
Yes,
other
thanks.
questions? Okay, thank you.
We would, as mentioned before, we've just had a calm, relaxing week around here. My manager's report, literally for about the last 10 days, it's been 8 or 10 hours a day on phone calls and meetings, and trying to stay in front of what the future holds for us here through this pandemic. And I feel real confident that we're in a good spot. I feel real confident that we're probably ahead of the curve in terms of what a lot of local governments across the country are doing. I've had a number of inquiries from counterparts from here to there. What are you guys doing? And we're all either in sync, or I've gotten several, we hadn't thought about that, things that we're already doing. So we're going to stay focused on ensuring stability and helping people through this, and that's our main goal right now.
Let me add to that. We're working very closely with Kingsport, Bristol, Washington County government, and Sullivan County government. And so, we all have the same challenge.
Yes.
And so, we all have perhaps some different tools to work with that we can help and share with each other. There'll be a press release, I think, probably coming out tomorrow, from the 5 entities, just to show that collaboration and, we're all on the same page and we're all in this together. So I think we'll see more of our government entities really joining forces to fight this thing. So it's a lot better when you have other creative ideas out there. There are things that we may have not thought of, and they can see things that we have thought of that they didn't. So
Bill and Chris and I have
Yeah.
talked every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and it was reassuring that the first conversation that we had, that we were about 98% in sync. What one had done, the rest of us had done, independent of any conversation. So you're going to see a lot of the same situations in terms of decision trees, no matter where you live in Washington and Sullivan County.
And the counties have some different challenges. They have the jails. They
The
have
jails are a big
courthouses.
challenge.
They have things that we don't have to deal with that, their challenge is a bit different, but, we're all in it. And the 5 mayors from these entities have been spending a lot of time, phone time, together as well, so. Well, Mr. Peterson, thank you a lot. Let's wish everybody, all the best and good luck this week. Stay apart, give air kisses, whatever you need to do. We do need to love each other a lot, through this as well. And now's the time for a lot of compassion and understanding. Dr. Fowler, for you, who's out in the medical world and you see patients all the time, our best, as you kind of go through this. It's affecting different practices in different ways, isn't it?
Yes,
So.
especially when you're a sports medicine doctor, there's no sports
And there's no
medicine going
sports.
on.
We were commenting on what are they writing in the sports section of the newspaper now, So,
Well, Mayor, on a
Yep.
lighter note, speaking of sports,
yep,
the Bucks are supposed to be beating a 4, 5, or 6 seed at this very moment in Greensboro, North Carolina. Had everything happen the way we wanted it to happen, and I think today's that day that the tournament would have started, and I think everybody's really disappointed because this was a special team. And with sports, and as one coach said, I think we're learning that we can live without sports, but it's painful.
it is painful.
And this team deserved a lot of accolades. And today's, I think, a day we were supposed to all try to thank the coach and the team for this. So I wish they were here.
One final thing, you are probably receiving your cards in the mail from the census organization. And so a lot of people are home. It's a perfect time to take the census. I've done mine.
I've done mine.
Done mine.
Yeah, have you done yours
It's
yet?
easy.
Yeah.
3 or
yeah.
4 minutes and you're done. It's
9 questions
really
and
easy.
that's it. So let's all jump on board. We need every single person to take the census. So good time to do it. If there's anything else, Commissioner Fowler, Hunter, okay. Meeting adjourned.